So welcome everyone who's watching. Welcome to all the candidates who've chosen to join us here tonight. We had an open invitation to everybody running for office. And so tonight, I'm Joel Weeb. I'm the Government Relations Coordinator here with the Peterborough and the Kawarthas Chamber of Commerce. And thank you to the Peterborough and the Kawarthas Home Builders for partnering with us on this evening. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that though we are meeting virtually, the land we are speaking from and discussing tonight is the Treaty 20 Michi-Saagiig territory and the traditional territory of the Michi-Saagiig and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaty First Nation, which include Alderville, Beausoleil, Curve Lake, Georgina Island, Hiawatha, Rama, and Scugog Island First Nations. We offer our gratitude to the First Nations for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. The Chamber is hosting debates in all 8 townships in Peterborough County this week. So we have 5 behind us. This is number 6. And the first 4 are already up on our website. So you can go to pkchamber.ca. So those who aren't able to catch this live, you will find this there later. It's on our YouTube channel. And we'll be putting this out on social media as well. And tomorrow night, we are hosting debates for Selwyn Township and North Kawartha. So if you'd like to join us, you're more than welcome to. Tonight, the speaking order has been randomly drawn. And so first up, we will have Kathy Lisette, Nelson Edgerton, Valerie Kent, Bob Walsh, Matthew Graham, and Jerry Burney. Am I missing it? No, that's everyone. And so we'll rotate that. So the first one, Kathy will do her opening statement. And then the first question, Nelson will be the first one to answer, and we'll just sort of keep changing that order as we go. So you will have 1 minute for your opening statements, and then we'll do a minute for your question and answer. And as the end of the night approaches, we'll do another minute for your closing remarks. For the timekeeping, you'll see the stop clock. I apologize. The clock is quite small on our screens this evening. When you run over time, it goes red. And as well, I have a little bell here, and that'll just be one more reminder. And if you keep going a little too longer, I'll just sort of jump in and interrupt you. But we'll try as much as we can to keep to our time limits so that we can get through as many questions as we can this evening. The questions tonight come from the local business community and the community at large. And if we have time as well, we'd love to hear some questions from those who are in attendance. You can submit those through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do as best as we can, keeping in mind that our focus tonight is business issues. So with that, we'll get into our opening remarks. Kathy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy Lisette. I'm running in Ward 3 of the Township of Cavan, Monaghan for councillor. And my business is Remark. I am the operator of the Remark office in Millbrook. I've been doing that since 2015. The reason for my candidacy is land use. I'm mostly concerned with land use and planning. And I believe I bring a lot to the table because prior to working with Remark, I was a real estate law clerk working freelance for 27 years. And so I know a lot about the Ontario statutes that govern municipalities. Thank you.
All right, next up, Nelson Edgerton. Oh, I'm muted. Nelson, you have to unmute yourself. So if you click the little microphone in the bottom left corner, it's got a red line through it.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay, thank you. I'm Nelson Edgerton, and I'm running for Ward 1 councillor in Cavan, Monaghan, and I've resided in the township all my life. I've been married for 57 years. Shirley and I have raised 4 children, I had 35 years on the Cavan Monaghan Fire Department, 15 of those as Chief Emergency Management Coordinator, and 5 years as Director of Water and Wastewater. And so I feel that I understand stuff very well. I understand the budget systems that they go through in the municipality. And so I think we need to plan for a sustainable and responsible economic and environmental future. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Valerie. Oh, you're on mute as well.
Hi, my name is Valerie Kent, and I worked as an artist most of my life, and I am running for Cavan Monaghan Councillor, Ward 2. I have been in other businesses for many years, and I'm passionate about customer service. Clients knew what they required was what I cared about. My strength is putting people first. I will represent the people and work together with the council and staff to serve the common goal. This means being open, honest, and caring about well-being for all of Cavan Monaghan. People are paramount in my business. I listen, I'm easy to approach, I welcome new ideas, I respond quickly. What am I looking for in being your counselor? I want to take responsibility to understand, research, evaluate, and make decisions about the issues, always with the best interests for the people of Cavan Monaghan at heart.
Thanks so much. Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob Walsh. Hello, everyone. I'm running as councillor in Ward 1, North Monaghan. First, big thanks to the Peterborough and Kawarthas Chamber of Commerce, and to you in particular, Joel. You've had a rough time, all these sessions that you're doing back to back to back, so thank you very much. I've been a ratepayer in Peterborough County for almost 30 years. My background is as a business lawyer, helping make business transactions happen, managing through regulation and people that have different points of view, and bringing people together. I think right now is a period of uncertainty and difficulty, but in fact, it's actually a period of great opportunity. And so, you know, how people buy, how people work, how people want to work is all changing. And so the issue now is, how do we help our small businesses and other businesses take advantage of that? We need to have a smart, creative, and team-oriented council. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Matthew.
Hi, Joel. Thanks. So my name is Matthew Graham. I'm running for the position of mayor in the township. I have a diverse background when it comes to business because I grew up on a hobby farm in Cavan. But my mother had her MBA in finance, and my father was very entrepreneurial and mostly in the retail space and run a lot of larger chains in that space. And my brothers and I, since we were teenagers, have been serving on a board of directors, managing our family holdings company as well. So you can say we have a fairly business-oriented dinner table in our house. I started my career in executive recruitment, worked for a number of firms in that space, and then transitioned over to the marketing and advertising sales career. And over the past 4 years, I've served as the deputy mayor in the township and also the county representative on the Peterborough and Kawartha Chamber of Commerce, which has been quite enjoyable and quite informative and really interesting, and garnered me a really appreciation for all the work that's done. So I really want to thank you, Joel, and thank the Chamber for all they do and all they continue to do. And I'm excited to talk about Cavan Monaghan tonight.
Thanks so much. Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry Byrne. I'd like to apologize to anybody that might be listening tonight from Ward 2 that I missed when I knocked on your door over the last 30 plus days. And for all the rest of the residents of Ward 2, I want to say thank you. It was a great experience. The conversations I had with you at the door in your homes over those days was delightful. I enjoyed it immensely, as well as I learned a lot of things. So when people asked me what my platform was and what I was doing, it was you people that I was listening to. As for me, I've gone to a lot of council meetings over a lot of years, back when we could, before we were locked out. Wi-Fi-ing meetings to the world is a great idea. It's got a lot of concepts to it, but it lacks a lot of things as well. There's lots of people in this ward that can't get and don't have high-speed, reliable internet. A lot of people can't afford it. Some people don't want it. Seeing those people left out of the conversation annoys me. I think I'm more face-to-face than Facebook. And I just want to say that I'm looking forward to giving you better representation than you've had in the past. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jerry. So we're going to go to question 1. And so the first person to answer this will be Nelson. So this question is a bit more broad and visionary. The township is seeing an influx of new homes and residents. How do you see your township growing and developing over the next 4 years? And if anybody wants a question repeated at any time tonight, please let me know. I'm happy to repeat them. So Nelson, you're up first.
Oh, can you hear me there? Is the thing turned
Yep.
on?
I've got you.
Yeah, I see expansion and stuff going on around the Friswell area because it is not the best of farmland. And close to 115, the airport and highways going both east and west there. So I think we're going to see some expansion down around there and save our farmland. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks so much, Valerie.
I see growing the local economy by attracting targeted business and industry to the township, which will increase the tax base. Having and keeping a viable and available labor force will retain businesses. Skills training can be done in-house at the college, the university, or by trade unions. Tourism will need to be developed because this is a great source of revenue. Experiential and immersive tourism is what people are looking for. Ecotourism, cycling, camping, cross-country skiing, fall color tours, and agritourism in the form of farm tours and visits to the farm stores will promote a healthy lifestyle. Climate change requires that we reduce greenhouse gas, recycle, and manage waste. Businesses and the community working together will ensure that there are places for people to stay, eat, and enjoy activities and help grow the economy.
Thanks so much, Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. There are so many different sides of that question. I'm going to focus more about North Monaghan and in North Monaghan, we have the airport and the airport lands, and there's a tremendous opportunity there, not just for the township, but in fact for the whole county, for the region. And I think a particular point is that they must stay in Cavan Monaghan, and we, the idea is not to have them just annexed away by Peterborough, but it's a great economic engine opportunity in that area.
All right, thanks, Matthew.
Thank you. So there's no disputing that growth and expansion have arrived in Cavan Monaghan, and definitely more so than most of the rest of Peterborough County. So from a growth perspective, from a business perspective, I think the biggest change, or the biggest few changes that we're waiting for and will be accumulating over the next 4 years are the rapid timelines we have for the development of our Sire Line Industrial Park. There's potentially 7 10-acre lots there. We're looking at hundreds of jobs. I know that some of the contracts with the different businesses are being finalized, but everything from an electrical apprenticeship school to a 3D manufacturing component and some cannabis have all been discussed. I'm not sure where they're at with what exactly is going to be, but we're really excited to get that moving, and we put really strict timelines on it. We'll also have the Kawartha Downs with some big plans for expansions and continuing the horse racing legacy there, and also some agricultural expansions as well. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah, thank you. Jerry.
Well, I'd like to see a little more input from the community and less concerned about the developers making money. I'd rather see the community stay somewhat similar to what it is. I think the agricultural heritage and the small town look is paramount. I see the world spinning and everything's changing, but it doesn't have to be at their pace. It could be the community deciding how fast, how much we're going to spend to do it. And we don't have to get caught up with the Ontario government or the city of Peterborough telling us what we have to do. It's time maybe to push back a little and have our own community the way we want it.
Thank you. Kathy?
Joel, I'm going to ask you for a repeat of the question.
Absolutely. So the question is, the township is seeing an influx of new homes and residents. How do you see your township growing and developing over the next 4 years?
Okay. So we do have lots of incoming housing. So I would like to see more businesses from home created. And I would expect that to happen on farm properties, expanding, Valerie touched on this actually, expanding zoning to allow for agritourism in particular, and more businesses operating from home so that we can stay within our township, shopping and working from home. This reduces the carbon print and therefore climate change. We're not driving to Toronto to work. I'm very much in favor of home-based businesses as much as possible. And I think that's what we need.
All right. Thank you very much. So that's our first question. Valerie, you'll be the first one to answer this next question. Many employers are struggling to attract the talent they need. What is your plan to attract workers so businesses can grow and thrive? Valerie, you're up.
I think that to attract workers, the businesses and industries will have to think a lot about how much they're going to give to the people that they bring in. I think that housing will be something that will be paramount because it's difficult to find places that are affordable to live. They may need skills training. They will need more money and much more in benefits to get people to come, because there are so many places in the world to be. And if we want them here in Cavan, Monaghan, then we need to sweeten the pot. They also will require skills training, perhaps. They may be skilled in different areas, but they would need the skills that the business or industry requires. So that could happen in in-house in the manufacture or industrial place, or it could happen at the colleges or the university. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Valerie. Bob.
Hi, thanks. Well, I would say it starts a little bit with something Matt said, which is if we are creating better jobs, higher quality jobs, then we will be more attractive. But overall, I think what I would say, this is actually a large benefit of the chamber itself. We need to cooperate at different levels of government to kind of prevent, for one thing, a brain drain out of this area, to make it a place where the kids want to stay instead of just moving to Toronto, as they're prone to do. We have a quality of life advantage here. Frankly, relative to other regions around Toronto, we have actually lower, as high as it is, lower housing costs. So I think we have natural advantages here. And if we cooperate at the well at the different levels of government and with the chamber, I think we have strengths to exploit.
Thanks. Matthew.
Yeah, thank you. This has been a big topic over the last 4 years, trying to solve the riddle of connecting employers that need workers and workers that need employment, and the gap therein, and trying to understand it. I think you can't speak about the issues with finding employment or for employers for finding employees without addressing the vast gap in affordable or reasonable cost housing, let's say. So, you know, where we're really working on, and it's a big part of my platform, to increase the diversity of housing options within our township, to make sure we're not just becoming more of a bedroom community by having housing that meets the needs of developers and can optimize their revenue generations, but we need housing that meets the needs of our actual community, and that's going to free up other, you know, more established or more larger properties, and then we'll just continue to feed the system in getting the actual needs accompanied and met. So I think that's a big problem, but obviously creating opportunities in land is the big issue in Peterborough County. There's just not enough land for service commercial development, and that's a big priority for us.
All right, thank you. Jerry?
Well, I think the root cause is really motivation. Something at the federal level needs to change, that people actually want to work, that they actually see some benefit to work, that they don't want to stay on programs that are leading them to an idea that they don't need to work. We have lots of benefits here in this community. We have lots of opportunities. You just have to look at Peterborough to see the number of jobs that are vacant. And I get sick and tired of hearing about a labor scarcity. We have a lot of people in this country and more coming in every day, but the programs are set up in such a fashion that the enticement to actually go to work and try to be responsible adults seems to be diminished.
All right, thank you. Kathy?
I am big question mark in my mind. I don't know why people don't want to work. I actually, in my own business, hired somebody who quit before he started. And that may well have been because of federal programming, I don't know. But what I am aware of is, having worked in housing, trying to provide houses for our millennials, so many of them are entrepreneurial. Our millennials grew up not expecting that there was any such thing as job security. So they create their own jobs. And I think that our future is in our millennials and giving them the opportunities to create their own businesses, and they will solve our problem. So I would start with allowing, again, this is a zoning question, which I would hope to work with our other council members to allow more businesses to operate from their home, and let our entrepreneurial millennials do those businesses. And there are.
All right, Nelson?
I guess as we attract commercial and industrial stuff, the workers will come to it. It makes it more attractive, and if we keep the housing down so they can afford to start out and work in these here places, it's going to help attract people into work. And I think they will come when we have the industry and that here for them to work in.
All right, thank you. So this next question, Bob, you'll be first up to answer this, and it's already been briefly touched on this evening. The region is in need of more serviced employment lands, specifically along the Highway 115 corridor, to the point that we're losing out on some major employment opportunities. What is your solution for the demand for serviced employment lands? Bob?
Well, I did touch on it already. I actually think that this is a huge opportunity for Cavan Monaghan and for North Monaghan. I think we have had a history of difficulty with Peterborough in either getting services from them or them wanting to annex. I think the solution will have to be collaborative, not including annexation. And I think without any criticism of the people before now, it will just be a greater imperative of the new council to work closely with Peterborough to find a solution. I would add as well, and I give Matt Graham credit for this, we had a little bit of a conversation. There are new approaches to creating services, and I think we should be looking at some of these new ways of doing that. Matt, I'm sorry for stealing any thunder there that you might have.
All right, thank you, Matthew.
Well, I've always got something to say, Bob, so don't worry about that. No, along the 115 is definitely an area of significance, and obviously with our, what the township has done is purchased a farm to create and convert it into employment lands, and that planning process took the owners and the governing body upwards of 3 years to convert, which is kind of a non-starter, or certainly an impediment for other individuals coming online and trying to create business space. So that's how desperate we know the need is, and why we took that initiative. But to build on what Bob already highlighted, we've been having lots of discussions, have been on a few different tours to different providers for these modular servicing systems that I think they sort of became popular for larger industrial developments, whether it's at the oil fields or more remote areas that require servicing for a large group, or even military purposes for remote deployments. So those services and technologies are becoming more affordable every day and can be added on a modular basis and expand industrial parks or commercial areas. And it's definitely something that we've done a lot of investigation in and are exploring as we continue to move forward.
All right, thank you, Matthew. Jerry.
We kind of missed the mark. Stuff we should have been doing 10, 12 years ago. All that industrial land up near the airport and across that whole corridor up there that is marginal in a lot of respects to agricultural. If that had been serviced during this pandemic, especially when there was such a large demand for that kind of service land, that we could have done by ourselves and had a nice steady income from that tax base, would have been great. That being said, hopefully some of this talk about Kawartha Downs, maybe they'll go ahead and get some service land out there, irregardless of what Peterborough and others around are trying to inhibit.
All right, thanks. Kathy.
Again, Joel, when I'm at the end, I kind of forget the question at the beginning. It's about servicing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'll repeat it.
Sure.
So the region is in need of more serviced employment lands, specifically along the Highway 115 corridor, to the point that we're losing out on some major employment opportunities. What is your solution for the demand for serviced employment lands?
I think that our current council has already made huge advance there by the Sire Line Farm being converted to employment lands. And as for the servicing there, I'm not sure what we're talking about. If we're talking about gas, I know that natural gas is very important to everyone, especially farmers. And I believe our council does work with Enbridge Gas to bring gas to our employment areas. But I don't know, but I know that's important.
All right, thank you. Nelson.
Yeah, technology is changing and new methods may make it more feasible. So we got to get some service land along our corridor, 115 corridor, or County Road 28, and along the Fraser area, which again I said was poor farmland, so we're not affecting the farmers. And so we have to investigate and get services out into them areas so we can get some businesses going. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Valerie.
This is difficult problem in that I know the Sire Line area is going to have their own wells and sewers. And I'm not sure what else their infrastructure holds. But in addition to that, perhaps there might be some other lands available, farmland that is not farmable. agricultural land that's not really that great for agriculture. There seems to be quite a lot of it. I've been talking to some people at their farms, and they're saying that they have pieces, and one person showed me his land where he couldn't grow anything, but it was zoned agricultural. So I think that those lands could be looked at as being converted to more industrial working. I'm tongue-tied here, into more serviced land for business and industry. Perhaps rezoning would be helpful, and some of the red tape could be oiled.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so this next question, Matthew, you'll be first up to answer it. And it is, first I'm going to just put another call out. If anybody watching this has any questions they would like to submit to our candidates tonight, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can tonight. So this next question, what are your infrastructure priorities for the township? Matthew, you're up.
Well, that's a very broad question.
In 1 minute.
Yeah, really. Infrastructure, I mean, for us, we have 3 major infrastructure projects that are underway now. I think the completion of those projects, first of all, being the fire hall, has been long overdue in its new location. That's, and then hopefully not long after that, we've already insured tenancy from the county, but bringing the EMS services in there. So that facility is mission critical. Our 2 public workstations have also been, in great need of repair, but now that we've had some of the growth, we can afford to enhance those services for the future of the community through DC revenues. So that's both of those yards. One, we're actually opening or having some sort of smaller grand opening ceremony next week, and the other's still in the process of having the footings done. So those 3 are major. And then for us, the big issue is the Tower Hill North subdivision, and also escalating the wastewater services on the other side of County Road 10 for the commercial areas up there to bring more service lands online.
All right, thank you. Jerry.
Well, as far as the fire hall goes, I'd love to know why we need to put it where it is going to go. As far as that goes, we definitely need the fire hall. I don't have an issue with that per se, but the location of it, I would. As far as the infrastructure for the new Tower Hill north of Fallis, we've put ourselves in a bit of a situation there with the intersection of Fallis line and the County Road 10 through some planning that I would be called questionable. I don't know how we're going to deal with the influx of traffic. And for that purpose, I think the developer should be more on the hook for some of these infrastructure costs than the taxpayers themselves. If they want to expand at that kind of rate, it's going to cost money, and that should be part of that building cost, I believe.
Thank you. Kathy.
Just a remark there on developers and paying for infrastructure costs. That's done already, and I believe will be the case for the upcoming developments that we have in housing. As for the infrastructure priority, if internet counts as infrastructure, I think Jerry touched on this too in question before. Internet is probably the most important tool to business and in our township, and there are so many areas where the internet is not good enough, and I would make that my priority.
Thank you. Nelson.
Yeah, last night at the debate, I heard bring up about the old arena down in Millbrook. I think we got to have a look at it and see what we can really do to make revenue come out of it. I think the council will have to work together on that and see what they can get there. And I think we still should be promoting industrial, commercial stuff out the North Monaghan Parkway there to fill in some of the spots out there, and that'll create some employment there. Yep.
All right, thank you. Valerie.
This is a tough question for me, not having been in that area for a very long time. But I'm thinking that the roadways and bridges, we have some things that are aging. And so we need to redo some roads, maintain a lot of different structures. In fact, the arena, it may be very well worth redoing that, because indoor space for sports for Cavan Monaghan is scarce, and in a way it would be very much a shame to let it go. And we could use it as long as possible, as long as it were feasible financially. I'd also like to see street lights in, there are some very dark areas in Cavan Monaghan. It's hard to drive at night. And
Gonna get you to wrap up, Valerie.
oh yes, thank you.
All right, Bob.
Hi, yeah, so I don't want to cover off what other folks have said, because there have been lots of good points made already, but I guess, one very obvious infrastructure priority that we talked about already is getting those industrial land serviced, or some of those industrial land serviced in as effectively as possible. The second thing, tying back to what we talked about before about attracting talent, avoiding a local brain drain, is having recreation facilities for young families and younger people, and obviously, again, it's been touched on, but that's an infrastructure priority. The last thing I'd like to say just about development, and I'm sorry, it's not directly responsive to your question, but I think the model of relying on development fees for to pay the bills is just a bad model. And so some comments were made already about having more mixed development in terms of residential development, more density, and I think that makes more sense, because there are some good cases in other places where that greater type of density is more revenue, more generating a higher type of revenue. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next question. So Jerry, you'll be first up to answer this. And this one was submitted through our website. So data from the 2021 census of agriculture shows Ontario is losing 319 acres of farmland daily. This is land that will never produce food once it has been paved over. What is your policy on developing agricultural land to help preserve food production for future generations in this country? Jerry?
Well, the first thing I think we need to is get rid of Trudeau and the Liberals who are anti-farming. They're putting a burden on the agricultural section in a big way. Then when you get down to what land to be used for development, we're not going to stop the world from spinning. Things are going to keep going the way they're going. The pace we can control, and the locations maybe we can control better. There's a lot of marginal land further away from Mel Morton's farm that would have been ideal maybe for some of the stuff that we're planning as far as jobs go. It'd be nice to see jobs in the community that people in the community would actually get. We have a lot of jobs down at City Hall that aren't people from the community. So it'd be nice to attract jobs and people that are actually in the neighborhood paying taxes and joining in on things.
Thank you. Kathy?
Well, I am a huge advocate for farmers and preserving land that is prime agricultural land. I would not like to see any more of our agricultural land given up for housing in particular. I'm definitely in favor of density and utilizing the housing that we already have, and or the land that we have within our so-called urban area, which is Millbrook and other hamlets, and putting all the housing in one place. I would like to see farms be able to have second houses. I believe that that's possible now. And I would like to see farmers have opportunities and education to expand on their farming practices. In other words, let's grow something more than corn and beans, and give them the education and the resources to do that. And
Matthew?
thank you.
All right, Nelson.
Agriculture is a key part of our township, and we can work to improve potential for the farmers. And I think we have to keep on growing a little bit, or we're going to go backwards. So to grow a bit and stay along the highway that we have right out, we have County Road 28 right off of 115 between the hamlet of Cavan, Township of Cavan and North Monaghan there, and it is not real good farmland in there. So let's get some development, let's get some services down there and develop right around there. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Valerie.
The agricultural lands really must be kept. The good agricultural land must be kept for agriculture. We are going to continue to need to eat. However, again, we could take land that is not as good and be allowed to sever it and to perhaps sell it so that the farmers could have some income to keep up the work on the farm, because that lot will be the money from that will be very useful for the farmers. I think some of them are struggling financially. Also, there is nothing that we can do when you're saying that the agricultural land is disappearing. We cannot force farmers to, we don't know who they're going to sell to, if they're going to sell, and they could be selling to developers. So we don't know that, we can't control that.
Thank you very much. Bob.
Yeah, you know, a lot of quite sensible things have been said already. You know, there are some things within the power of a town council and some things that are not. And so there are some constraints, and I think the previous council, you know, really tried hard to sort of focus on where development should be. That said, it is the case that there are some lands that designated agricultural that are not very good agricultural lands, and those lands, if there must be development, and there will be development, we should do everything we can to ensure that it's on the lower grade lands, and do everything we can to prevent, you know, the higher quality agricultural lands from being developed.
All right, thank you. Matthew.
Thanks, Joel. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about a couple of the things that we are and have been doing, and you know, I don't know if there's ever going to be enough that municipally we can do. One of the things that I've been championing over the last 2 years is the expansion of the community improvement program throughout the entirety of the township, because I felt like it was really unfair that there was only a support program and funding available for businesses in the village of Millbrook. So a couple of those, one in specific is the Rural and Agricultural Economic Development Grant. So that has upwards of $10,000 or 50% of certain projects for enhancements or on farm-based businesses or ag tourism grants. Like, you can fulfill whatever you're trying to do, you can probably find a way to make it fit as an application for that grant. And that's a lot more helpful than a lot of other suggestions that have been bantered about with making, you know, actual tangible thousands of dollars in the pocket. and try to help there. There's also been some ongoing work that we've been trying to explore to make, even when I think of beef farming, which is what I'm more familiar with, the province has really cracked down on abattoirs, and we've been trying to work on zoning and more allowances for those sorts of structures to come in and service and provide for those farmers as well.
All right, thank you. Moving on to our next question. So Kathy, you'll be the first to answer this, and this was a popular topic on our submissions. What is your stance on allowing ATVs on public roads? Kathy.
Yes, well, I think that before we allow them on public roads, we need the multi-use trails that they will connect to in place. And right now, within our township, we do not have a multi-use trail. I think that most of the users are looking for the trail. And in other words, they don't want to be on the roads for the sake of the sport. They want to get through the township to connect to other trails, such as the Victoria Rail Trail. I understand that the County of Peterborough is not opening roads to ATVs, and so there's a problem there. And if we open our roads, then how do you connect to the Peterborough? It's been too early to in the game to say yes, but it's something that can be discussed in the future.
Right, thank you. Nelson.
Yes, I think we should get down to business here and let our ATVs on the road to go from one trail to the other. And I think we have to sit down with the people who want to ride them and the people who are against it and come up with a solution and get it done and get on with it. Like there is regulations underneath the act for the police to make sure that they have the plates and everything, plates and insurance and everything on them. So let's sit down and draw up an agreement with the township and the riders and get it done. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Valerie.
I believe that we should allow ATVs on the road. Other places have done it, and it has been quite successful. And I believe in a 2-year pilot program with a review after 1 year. And it should be, I think, yes, the people who are asking for it should, and the township should, and the council should get together, and the staff should get together to hammer out a kind of what they want and the plans that they want to put into place and start the program.
All right, thank you. Bob.
Yeah, hi. I don't have an ATV, and I would say I don't have a particularly strong view as a personal view. The way I think of it, though, is if I were the councillor from North Monaghan, despite the fact that this was resolved in a final way by the last council, this would be a new council. And if I had a clear sense that a majority of the residents of North Monaghan were in favor of this, then I think it should come up for discussion again at council. But I highlight it's a clear majority of the residents of North Monaghan, not a vocal minority of the residents of North Monaghan.
All right, thanks. Matthew.
Yeah, I'm in the unique situation of having been on the council when this recent iteration of this discussion was had. We spent over 2.5 years of countless hours of consultation, emails, public meetings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There was a lot of moving parts, and obviously COVID in the middle of it was also not ideal. But yeah, we visited this topic. I know the county's moved on. Their transportation master plan has closed the door on this subject. The only one route or one road that the county was suggesting to incorporate into our township was 21. And it was coming into the village of Millbrook, where there was upwards of, in my experience, 80% of the village was not in favor of the allowance of it. So it's unfortunate that the conversation changed in so many different ways and so many different iterations, but We also had conversations with the Ganaraska Trails, and they repeatedly sent letters to us asking to not increase the allowance or permissions on roads because they couldn't manage the existing traffic that they already have. So we've listened and we've heard, and we've made a decision, and I think we should go on.
All right, thank you, Jerry.
Yes, they should be allowed, and the sooner the better. This is an agricultural community, and as far as the surveys, from what I understand, Cavan Council did one, and it showed different results than Graham's talking about right now. When I went door to door over the last 30-something days, I'm listening to a large majority of the residents of Ward 2, which I'd like to represent, are strongly in favor of responsible ATV use on our roads. And like Kathy said, most people want to get from point A to point B. Sometimes it's for agricultural purposes. Sometimes it's just to get to a trail. Sometimes it's just to get to a neighbor. I don't see a problem. I don't understand why it's taken this long to get it fixed. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. We'll move on to the next question here. And so Nelson, you'll be the first one to answer this. What involvement and relationships do you plan to pursue with the First Nations communities to move our region forward on our path to reconciliation? And again, I can repeat any questions here tonight if anybody would like. Nelson, you're up first.
Could you repeat that one again, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
What involvement and relationships do you plan to pursue with First Nations communities to move our region forward on our path to reconciliation?
I guess basically, to make it simple, just have open discussions with them and see if we can work out plans that suit both parties. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Valerie.
Our path to rehabilitation with Indigenous communities starts with the communication. It is up to us to begin the dialogue. We can ask for meetings and see if our local Indigenous groups would be willing to teach us, educate us on how we can move towards healing. Perhaps we can have days of awareness and thoughts so that we can clearly understand and commit to making right what has been so long unspoken. We need to know what the Indigenous peoples in our community have been going through. We must acknowledge that we need to do better. We can make sure that there is involvement to all our events, activities, and sports, with invitations not just to come, but to plan events that are relevant to everyone and to participate in what has been planned. The township must become more inclusive, and we hope to move forward together.
All right, thank you. Bob.
Yeah, hi. I think this is a really important question. The reality is that as a single counselor on my own in one ward, I can't make things happen. But going back to the beginning of this call, I think I would have a commitment, and I think Township Council should have a commitment of working, very closely with county level and other regions in respect of the local area. To really have a dialogue. And when we talk about heritage in our community, we're not just talking about, if I might say, our colonial heritage, but we're talking about a longer, deeper heritage in this area.
Thank you. Matthew.
Thank you. A couple things. One, I think it's time, and maybe past due time, that just as we started this meeting with the land acknowledgement, I think our council, it's past due time that we do the same out of respect for the heritage that our First Nations people have in our area. That's just a small and appropriate gesture to get things back on the right foot. And I've had some recent conversations with some First Nations in our area, and I think the one thing that they've brought up repeatedly is concerns over bypassing their consultations, which hasn't exactly occurred, but the sentiment has been felt like there has been a trying to circumvent some of their role or their opportunity for consultation. And that's really unfortunate and something that we need to be aware of and conscientious of moving forward, that we ensure that sentiment is, and that action does not occur with their role and commenting on a lot of policies and developments as they occur in our township.
All right, thank you. Jerry.
For most of my adult life, I've been listening to this, more dialogue, more talking, more of everything. It all sounds nice. I've yet to hear in my entire life what the end goal is for the whole solution. I've never heard anybody tell me what they're actually wanting. I know for a taxpayer base, we've been supporting First Nations for most of my adult life, billions of dollars. I don't know what the end goal is. I would like to hear somebody tell me and explain so that maybe I could grasp it better. That would be an interesting part. Other than that, I am open to talking, but there has to be a lot of give and take at both sides, I think.
All right, Kathy.
Well, first of all, correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't have First Nations communities within our township that I'm aware of. So I wasn't expecting this particular question, but for our country and our province and our county, education is the answer here. And I don't think our council to date has entertained what we can do toward education. But maybe that's something that we would bring forward, I would hope. It is an important issue, but do we know really what the issues are and what is Jerry pointed out, what is the goal here? I think to bring education is the goal.
All right, thanks. We're going to move on to our next question. So Valerie, you'll be first up to answer this. And I know just about everybody, I think, has touched on this at some point, but I'd like to have a question really focused on this. So this one is, many residents and businesses are struggling with slow and unstable internet. What will you do to ensure everyone has proper high-speed internet access? Valerie, you're up.
We are on the internet all the time. And last year I taught 83 workshops with my internet at home. Not always very stable. And just a couple of weeks ago when I was doing a workshop for Trent University, my internet went down. We do not have a lot of control. All we can do is lobby. And I know that they did put the fiber optics down County Road 10. It's not yet being used as far as I can see. My house at the time was the last stop on County Road 10. But when I called to see if I could get it, they said no. So it's just a question of lobbying, asking, and like a little terrier with a bone, don't let go.
All right, thanks. Bob.
Yeah, I don't have technical answers to this question, and I'm not familiar with efforts of the existing council. What I would say is it's just so important. It ties into so much of what we talked about, wanting to create jobs here, create good jobs here. If we want to compete with other regions around Toronto for the types of new businesses that Matt referenced that might, they don't have to be in Cavan, Monaghan. They don't have to be in North Monaghan. They can go anywhere. I tell you, one of the things they will insist on is threshold internet, if not very good internet. Having said that, there actually are new technologies and new types of competition emerging in this space, like Starlink. Some of you may be aware of, and I think that it needs to be a priority subject for council to be sort of at the front of the pack, looking at new opportunities. Again, not to suggest this wasn't the case before, but I think we really need to treat it as a first priority.
All right, thanks, Matthew.
Yeah, so this is really from a municipal standpoint, we're very fortunate to have Nexicom in our village with one of their offices, and I know they are working very diligently at expansion. There's been a lot of lobbying at the county and involvement in the county, and actually some fiscal contributions in the county mostly through EORN, the Eastern Ontario Regional Network, that J. Mary Jones has been involved in as a representative of the county and the region on. So I give him a lot of credit for that. And even it was just in 2021, I believe, that the province announced that they were coming to the table with a $2.8 billion investment. The reality is, now that we have some of these commitments, it takes time to get them in place. And it's taken years of effort to get both the feds and the provinces to make the commitments and invest in the infrastructure that we've needed for decades. So it's starting to roll out now, but that doesn't make it come any sooner. We're always trying to reach out to all their providers when they come to us and asking about infrastructure expansions, where we need it, where we think there's a need, and we need to be ready with those answers when those opportunities present themselves.
All right, thanks, Jerry.
I would think this is all business related to make a business case for an area by area. It seems that subsidies from the federal and the provincial government are the driving forces to make those cases. I don't see the municipal level having those resources to buy that kind of amalgamation with some carrier or whatever to supply inside the township. But yes, anything the council can do to prod the monies out of the purses of the Ontario government to get these stations set up somewhere closer to our community rather than other ones that might fall under a different priority would be good.
All right, thanks. Kathy.
I've talked to a lot of farmers over the course of a few years, and their number one requirement for their businesses is internet, and good internet. So I mentioned before, if internet counts as infrastructure, that's my number one priority. But I don't have the experience to say how we lobby for it. That's all new on me. I do understand that there is a proposal for a tower by Rogers on our Carmel line that might help some of the people at the south end. But absolutely, it's a number one priority, not just for farmers, but for anybody moving into the community that wants to run a business from home. I mean, we're all totally dependent on internet now.
Thank you. Nelson.
We have Nexicom in our area, and we also have another company in Mount Pleasant that does fiber optic. So I think we have to lobby them to get it into places where we want our commercial and stuff to grow. And I believe the government is spending mega bucks. And every time you drive up and down the road, you see them burying more fiber optic. So that's going to help. But I think as a township, we have to lobby to get it where we want it, so we can get some commercial stuff hooked right up to it right off the bat as one of our major services. Thank you.
All right, thanks. So move on to another question. Bob, you'll be up first for this one. And this one has come in from somebody watching here tonight. For a community to attract businesses and residents, it is important to have basic amenities available, such as health services, etc. What is missing, and how will you advocate to correct it? Bob?
And it's a good question. I think I mentioned before, if we want sort of younger talent to want to live here, to be able to live here, we, someone else mentioned we need affordable housing. And the point is, we need the things that make people want to live here in different stages and ages of their life. And I think recreational facilities matter. As I say, affordable housing matters. And I just think we have to have a general attitude of wanting to attract those people.
Thanks, Bob. Matthew.
Yeah, so health services is not our jurisdiction, but it is a major part of my platform, having served on the Board of Health, but also just from speaking with individuals involved in doctor recruitment and things of that nature. There's just a vast gap between what certain bodies within the government seem to think access to care is and what I think access to care is. I think access to care is being told what's wrong with you so you can then access care, not I need a special service that I can't get somewhere. Because that would be a luxury problem, and we're not at the stage of solving luxury problems. We're at the initial stage of needing to solve the actual first problems, and rather than bombarding hospitals and sitting for hours in emergency rooms, or letting problems just fester until they get to a point that costs the recovery is too far. So I think the Peterborough region is one of the larger areas within the province that doesn't have a community health center. I think that's a travesty. And doctor recruitment is this impossible dream that we need to still try for because of the aging. One of the doctors we have is about to retire. So we need to do everything we can and move heaven and earth to create a strategy to expand health services.
All right, thanks. Jerry.
Well, right off the hop, we lost the blood clinic we used to have down at what I jokingly refer to as City Hall in the old gymnasium. And I was talking in town just the other day about that, and they said, oh, it wasn't making enough money. I don't understand that. When you look at the backlogs, people are telling me at for the Peterborough Clinic and the one down the street from it are backed up all the time. As far as getting doctors here, that's a Canada-wide problem. Some of it was inherited because years ago they throttled back the number of students going into the medical system, kind of an artificial job security thing. And then the paramedic idea for Cavan, Monaghan, it's a nice want, I get that. I would rather see the problem fixed where the paramedic vehicles that are high cost and highly trained personnel aren't sitting in at the hospital in Peterborough most of their shift, waiting for a simple thing like being signed off, and we need to call Port Hope to get a paramedic to help us. Seems wrong.
All right, thanks. Kathy.
Well, I'm one of those unfortunate many that does not have a doctor, and I have not seen a doctor since 2014. I had an appointment with my doctor in Lindsay that was canceled due to the virus, and then later I was told that he was retiring. He is now retired, and I'm on a waiting list. So I would like to see nurse practitioners replace family doctors, and I'd like to see that nurse practitioners could work from their home. Nurse practitioners have many of the duties of a family doctor. They can prescribe, they can refer. And family doctors mostly do referral anyway. They examine a patient and decide which specialist you get referred to. But without somebody to first see, whether it's a nurse practitioner or a doctor, we don't have the opportunity to see anyone else. So I would like to recruit nurse practitioners that could operate from their homes.
All right, thank you. Nelson.
Yes, as we grow, we need to attract medical services, but it has to be done in a financial way that we can assure it. And as Jerry just alluded to, we got to do something about that, about unloading patients at the hospital instead of having ambulances tied up there for hours and patients laying in an ambulance. That's terrible. We got to get something done to straighten out that problem right off the bat. Thank you.
Valerie.
I think it's something that's very difficult for Cavan Monaghan to do on its own. I think this has to be a collaborative endeavor with the county, with Peterborough, and together we could perhaps do better in attracting doctors and nurse practitioners. I'd love to see a drop-in clinic, even if it were a little further out, perhaps somewhere else in the county, but close enough that we could use it. And it could be staffed with nurse practitioners. The other thing is that we could ask the that immigrant doctors who are here in Canada who can't practice, if they could be licensed and have them come. I've talked to some that were driving taxis in Toronto.
All right. Thanks, Valerie. We'll move on to the next question here. And Matthew, you'll be the first one to answer this. How should the township engage local businesses to help meet climate change goals and move toward net zero emissions? Matthew.
Sure. So we have our own plan as the township, and I think it's something that we're starting to get better at communicating and leading by example. We do have only one current residential offering is a toilet rebate for lower flow, lower volume facilities like that. And that's a grant that's supported by the province. As far as engaging with our local business community, I think that we've also leveraged some of the regional assets from an agricultural perspective at trying to green up our agricultural practices, which has been very successful. I know there's been lots of discussions at the county, and there's even been some discussions at the chamber from our ag rep there as well. So that's been interesting, and maybe something we should expand and make more locally available. But also, I think we need to do better at communicating the types of things that we're doing at the township so that they can be adopted or considered by other practitioners as well, because there are some nominal changes, even things like lighting changes, right? Like, I mean, that was some of the initial work talking about changing light bulbs into more efficient, and we've definitely done that with some of our construction as well. And I think we can use those as case studies for others to learn from.
All right, thank you. Jerry.
I think there needs to be a more responsible approach to this net zero stuff. Case in point, right now we're paying 80 cents a kilowatt hour for people to produce electricity for us off a solar panel. And at the same time, we're letting water roll over the edge of Niagara Falls rather than going down a sluway to make electricity in the cleanest, cheapest possible way we're allowed to do it today with our technology. Some of these plans, they sound great, but they have no potential to actually benefit. The best example I can think of right now is Germany and the mess that they're in with their full bore approach to the green energy, the zero emissions. It's putting them in a place where they're going to have a tough time over the next 5 to 10 years to get out of.
All right, thanks. Kathy.
I first want to thank our current council for implementing the plan that we have. As Matthew mentioned, communication is the next step. Above that, I believe that if we create more business opportunities within our township, home-based, then there's less need for cars on the road, and therefore that reduces the carbon and plant trees, increase the oxygen, and that goes a long way toward solution. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Nelson.
Yeah, I think the township has a plan in place, and we gotta work through with it right there. And Jerry come up with a good point. Why are we letting the water just run down over the rocks? Why aren't we getting power out of that there kind of stuff? And we can lower energy lighting and lead by example there to help stop some of the pollution. But I think we have to look at the plan that the township already has adopted for this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Valerie.
We are a community, so we can carpool, use the mass transit, combined trips. We can drive less, but more efficiently. We can buy electric cars, and we can switch to green power, eat more veggies, create less waste. We can recycle more and make less trash. We can buy less. We can reduce carbon emissions. If we grow less grass, then we can use less water and fertilizer. Instead, we can put down mulch and grow plants or trees and shrubs. We can protect our forests and plant more trees. We can weatherproof our homes. We can vote for laws that support food recovery and prevent waste from going into landfills.
All right, thank you. Bob?
Yeah, I think possibly on the last question, I misheard the question. And so just to be clear, I think the question was, how would we help our small businesses with this issue? And I think, it's been mentioned communication or education, and also what's been mentioned a little bit are economic incentives. And I think the third thing, particularly when not as a township, but more as a larger area in the county, is I guess what I would call badging, or in a way credentialing people, giving people credit for what they do. And when I think of my own kids, when they buy things now, they care a lot more than our generation, that what they buy and the services they use are greener. So I think there's actually a business opportunity there, sort of countywide, and in our township to promote that with our small businesses.
Right, thanks so much. Recognizing that we're getting close to the end of our hour-and-a-half session, we're going to be moving into our closing statements now. And everybody has 1 minute for their closing statements. And Jerry, you are up first.
Lucky me. Anyways, there's a lot of topics here that need a lot of talking about, and the 1 minute time frame doesn't allow a lot of that. I'm very open to listening to people. I would like a little common sense and courtesy when we do it. And that being said, I think we can all improve. There's no doubt about that. But right here, right now, one of the things that comes up a lot is this affordable housing. It's probably the most misused phrase that I've ever heard when I talk or listen to politicians. For the average working Canadian, they need to be able to put a roof over their house, something to live in, for about a third of their paycheck. And the whole idea of affordable housing for most politicians, they have no concept of that whatsoever. So yes, anybody that wants to talk, I'm available to talk, and I thank you for your support. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Kathy?
My platform is set out on my website, which I created as a campaign website. It's kathylysett.ca. And it's quite expansive there, but the three priorities are all tied together for me. They are land use and planning, affordable housing, and economic development. And I see us as our biggest advantage is our agricultural heritage. And I believe that we can use our agricultural heritage to deal with all of those problems, if you call them problems. But we have a unique opportunity in this township to grow based on our agricultural heritage. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Nelson?
Yes, we understand I understand the needs of the airport and which lands are best suited for development. I'm quite aware of that. I have knowledge on budgets and stuff in the councils. I've dealt with that stuff there. And as I've dealt with the fire department service for many years, I know how the emergency services work and how to work with department heads with them. So I think in the long run, if the council can work with their department heads and work with the public that wants to develop stuff, we can develop a good running township.
All right, thank you. Valerie?
Do you want to have open, honest, and caring representation? Do you want a counselor that listens, is easy to approach, and responds in a timely way? Do you believe that your elected representatives should take responsibility, work hard to earn your trust, and has the best interests of the people of Cavan Monaghan at heart? If your answer is yes, yes, and yes, vote Valerie Kent.
All right, thank you, Bob.
Yeah, my closing remark is going to be tailored to the fact that this is the Chamber of Commerce event. And I'm going to go back to what I said at the outset. I sincerely believe we're at a very special moment of opportunity for the region. And I'll give just a really quick example. My wife has a small consumer products company. It imports most of the materials from China and India, the packaging from China, much of the assemblies there. They have no choice but to begin on source, doing a lot of that, domestically now. And that's true for many, many other businesses. It's just a period of big change. And so we either have our minds aware to that and help our local entrepreneurs take advantage of that, or we let other municipalities in other parts of the province and other parts of Canada do that. So I'm optimistic that we can take advantage of it.
All right, thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, well, I think first we have to thank the chamber. Thank you, Joel, for all the coordination, and you're doing this throughout the county, and I can only imagine what the gathering those horses is like. Anyway, so appreciate all your work. You've been a great addition to the team. I have to recognize our outgoing president, Stu Harrison, for all his great work in the county and in the city of Peterborough over the years. Thanks for all you've done, Stuart. We'll talk again. But yeah, no, it's an exciting time to be a part of Cavan, with great opportunity. It is great pressure, but there is great opportunity there. I agree with Bob in that sentiment, but it is a delicate balance. I think I've demonstrated over the last 4 years that when it comes to development, I really think of it as a necessary compromise. It's not all for or all against. It's got to fit, and it's got to work, and it's got to be where it makes the most sense. And it's unfortunate that municipalities have been so hemmed in by every other level of government and the very, very deep and confining legislation. But it is the reality of the circumstance, and we've got to make the best of it.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to extend another thank you. It has been a true team effort this week. It's my face often up here at these debates, but tonight we have behind the timer, we have Kathleen Thompson, who's done a great job this evening, keeping us on track. Q&A at the bottom, which now says, thanks, Matt, is none other than Stuart Harrison, who's been keeping track of the questions in the chat and that. And then we have Tiffany Arcari, who's been managing Zoom tonight. Which has been takes a weight off my shoulders having the team come and help out with all this, and it's been everybody all week. So big thank you to the rest of my chamber colleagues. I want to remind people this debate is recorded, and we appreciate everyone who tuned in live, but it will be posted up on pkchamber.ca. It's on our YouTube channel. We'll share it on social. We encourage everybody else to, so you can watch it again if you want even. We have 2 more debates coming up yet this week. So tomorrow night, we have Selwyn Township at 5:30 till 7 and North Kawartha at 7:30 till 9. And then next week, we have our in-person and streamed on live debate for the mayoral candidates for the city of Peterborough. And that's Thursday, October 6th, 7 to 8:30 at Market Hall. Doors open at 6:30. And other than that, just thank you everybody for joining us tonight and making this event go so well. Have a good night.
Thank you,
Take care.
Joel.
Thanks, Joel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Bye-bye.